education. We want to be a lost generation. Fight for jobs and education. Votes get failed up. We get sold out. Votes get failed up. We get sold out. Fight for jobs. You 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 fight for jobs. Voting for the bosses. Curse your bosses. Voting for the bosses.
Coventry, 75 years later, unemployed teenagers are marching the same 330 miles to London to demand a decent future for youth. Bring back EMA so youth can go to college. Calling for the end of tuition fees and loans so young people can go to university. Calling for a new house building programme so young people can have a home and a future. Because all our money is going to the bankers for their bonuses after their gambling and speculation got us into this mess in the first place. In Coventry, 1 in 5 of all young people are now unemployed. We have 23,000 people on the housing waiting list. And last week in Coventry, there were 43 properties on offer. These unemployed young people are marching 330 miles all the way from Jarrow in the northeast down to London, following the same path that 75 years ago, in 1930. 20 years ago, the Tories made every FE college in the country a separate business, and any building they were occupying at the time, they gave to these colleges, which meant this college, City College, inherited that 600-year-old Carthusian monastery and the land. 3 or 4 weeks ago, they put it up for sale. We're running a campaign in this area saying if they can't find a public use for it, it should come back to the community and be used for the public, the people who live in the Charterhouse area.
Hey! I've been on all the way from Newcastle, and it's been hard. It's been really hard. But I don't know when I've had a better time, because I feel like I'm doing something important for the first time in a long time. I've been unemployed for over a year, and I've had enough. We want real jobs for ordinary people. What about building houses? What about nationalising the little bit of manufacturing we still have in this country and expanding it? What about real jobs for ordinary people? What about free education for young people? Completely free education. And they say we can't afford it. Well, I think they can afford it. I think if they make the people like the people who own Boots, the people who own Vodafone, I think if they make them pay their taxes, pay the taxes they owe, they can pay off the deficit in 1 year. If they raise by 10% for 1 year the rate of income tax paid by the highest rate of earners, they could pay off the deficit. If they did both those things at once, they could spend more money. If they nationalised the banks, they could have some control over the economy. They could afford to spend money on job creation. All they're doing is destroying jobs, which is only going to push us into a deeper state of recession.
But a house building programme that gives unemployed young people the chance for education, so young people can go to university without incurring a lifetime of debt. And they want homes being built so that in this city, for example, when 23,000 people are on the housing waiting list, inevitably it's young people who are at the end of that number. We live in a city where 1 in 5 young people are unemployed.
I'd like to thank everyone who supported us in Coventry today. We've had an absolutely fantastic march, showed that young people in Coventry want decent jobs and education and that we're willing to fight for it. The Jarrow March for Jobs is marching, for people who don't know, the 330 miles from Jarrow to London, because we've got 1 million young people today in Britain that have been thrown on the scrap heap who are out of work and aren't in education. And we want the government to create socially useful jobs for those people. There's plenty of work that needs doing in society, and young people want to be in work. They don't want to be sat on their asses all day long. For starters, the government could get 200,000 unemployed brickies back to work building homes for the 5 million people on the council housing waiting list.
A real Coventry welcome to the Youth March for Jobs 75th anniversary. Jarrow March 2011, demanding give youth a future. Thanks so much.
I've got my 2 kids here, and the likelihood is that they're going to have a worse standard of living than me. And that's obviously a crying shame. So obviously it's really important that people get involved and do things like you guys are doing.
Yards away from here, by the job centre, in the Cyrenians, with some unemployed and homeless teenagers in Coventry, you're facing the prospect of being back on the streets in the days ahead because we don't have enough public housing. So this is what unites trade unionists, older people in the city and the young people marching. 23,000 on the waiting list here in Coventry. Teenagers heading back onto the streets. We want the unemployed brickies, carpenters and sparks of this city put back to work, building public housing, and we welcome young people here this weekend who are raising demands like that and helping us in our campaigns. What I want to finish with is the demands that they're putting forward. EMA brought back, tuition fees scrapped, a guarantee of a job at the end of your training, a decent wage, a home when you were grown. Those things aren't impossible. What makes them impossible is the way in which society is presently structured. The Bank of England could find 2 weeks ago £75,000 million to put into the banks and the economy out of a magic hat. And yet they say there isn't a few £100 million to build homes, or a few £1,000 million to scrap the price of going into education. The reason why that's the case is we live in a society that's a bit like a pyramid. The needs of a tiny number at the top of that pyramid is what in a market economy, in capitalism, is seen to be the priority. The millions of people at the bottom of that pyramid are the ones who are told you have to pay when things go wrong. Now, we're here to celebrate the 75th anniversary. Let me finish by invoking a slogan from 370 years ago, not just 75 years ago, when groups of pre-socialists, like the Levellers and the Ranters, in the English Civil War of the middle of the 17th century, looked at their society being like a pyramid, with the royal family and the aristocracy and the landowners at the top, and the vast majority of ordinary people at the bottom. And their slogan was, turn the world upside down. Put the interests of the millions of people before the interests of the millionaires. Now that's what unites us in this march.
Welcome the marchers to Coventry on behalf of Coventry TUC. And I have to say, I'm a seasoned demonstrator. I've lost count of how many demonstrations I've been on, but I have to say it was a real privilege to be on this demonstration today, because I think you have set up you've raised the bar, and we have to meet that. One of the things we've done in the TUC today is to produce just a small leaflet about why young people need trade unions, because the fact is that you're fighting for jobs, but when you do get jobs, you are some of the most exploited of the workers in this country, and you need trade unions to support you. So we're going to be using this leaflet.
Here in decent jobs and decent pay, the Jarrow March is on its way. It's going to be heard the length and breadth of the country by the end of the march. And I think that's important because this government would like to have us think that unemployment, low pay, poor education, disillusionment, all those things are down to individuals who fail to achieve in life. And I think what this march is showing is that people across the country know all too well that that's not at all the case. Whether pensioners, students, workers or unemployed, we're all suffering at the hands of these cuts. And I think that's showing that we all know who's to blame for it. EMA costs the government a minuscule amount of money in comparison to the deficit and so on. But they cut it anyway because the government doesn't think that poor people have any predetermined right to have an education. And So Youth Fight for Jobs is making, as has been mentioned, 5 demands of things that we think can be done to at least make a start in improving things for young people. Those are to bring back EMA and scrap uni fees, allowing working class young people to the same education opportunities as their parents had, but more importantly as the politicians that made making these cuts had when they were going for education themselves. Scrap workfare, that if there's a job that needs to be done, then someone should be paid a proper wage to do it, not sent just for their unemployment benefit. That we need to build a huge number of affordable publicly owned houses so that young people can have decent places to live. That we reopen all closed youth centres and services, that we re-employ all the sacked youth workers who are qualified, trained professionals, and it's a travesty wasting those skills in the dole queue, really. And most importantly, that we need jobs.
Bikes get built up!
We get sold out!
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 We won't be a lost generation!
Fight for jobs and education!
We won't be a lost generation!
Fight for jobs and education!
Decent jobs with decent pay!
Jarrow March is on its way!
Decent jobs with decent pay!
Jarrow March is on its way!
Bring back ELA!
Take it out of bankers' pay!